Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but I really enjoy a good game of poker. Poker can bring out the best and the worst in people, mind you. Poker is about playing the hand that you were dealt well. Sometimes you're dealt a really great hand, and other times not so much. But we are wired as human beings in such a way that when we see other people's random good fortune, we have difficulty celebrating it. That should have been my ace, we think. They had 3 good hands in a row. They don't deserve 4. It's my turn. We can even demonize the one who's lucky, a natural straight jerk. We can find ourselves even celebrating another's loss, thinking they got what they deserved. It takes a conscious effort to remember that the card selection is random. It's so bizarre that we are hardwired to think that the world is fair when you don't have to look that far to discover that it actually is not at all fair. People do not get what they deserve for the most part. Some do, some don't. Some because they're in their own way, some not because of any fault of their own. But the world is not fair overall, and so it's up to us to bring that fairness to the world. That's why you cut the cake and your friend gets to choose. When there's only one clear winner, for some reason, that entitlement button that we have is tripped. That's what happens to us. It feels like injustice, but it's not. It's entitlement. Entitlement is when everything is focused on your own experience, your own outcomes, and your own needs, often at the cost of someone else's. I just finished this book called The Narcissism Epidemic, and the authors Twenge and Campbell wrote, "Entitlement is like a ghost. It's difficult to see in solid form, but increasingly wafting its cold, cloudy fingers into everything. It's fun while it lasts," they write. "You live in a fantasy in which the world owes you more than you contribute. You can feel entitled to a flat-screen TV without earning the money to pay for it. Park in a handicap space because you're in a rush. Graduate from college and expect a fulfilling job with a 6-figure income right away." But the real world isn't like that. The real world has changed a lot over the years, and it's changed especially evidently since I was in college, because these same authors say that students are telling their college professors, "You work for me." In a recent study cited in the book, 1/3 of the students thought that they should be able to reschedule their final exam if it conflicted with their vacation plans. Like, get over yourself. The work world is also showing signs of the age of entitlement. Employers have actually whole sections of books and trainings on how to handle this new narcissist employee. The new entitled employee whose job it is to stand behind a cash register and smile today needs to know why they are expected to smile and ask repeatedly to be recognized for it. Today's employees are looking at what will the company do for them rather than what they will do for the company. And some companies are actually hiring, get this, I didn't know this term, but in our context it's totally different, praise consultants. So these companies are hiring praise consultants not to get them closer to God, but to help employers who don't know how to appropriately praise this new breed of employee. So they're getting help to appropriately praise their workforce, which evidently includes lots of confetti. What planet do these people live on? It used to be that not being called into the boss's office, not being reprimanded or fired, was in fact clarity that we were doing a fantastic job. Do you remember that? Times have changed. People are now seeking praise for even the most obvious thing expected of them. People want to be celebrated and honored in the workplace for even the slightest effort. Now, you can also find entitlement, of course, in our pop culture, where the American hero has become someone who strikes it rich with very little effort. But I think the real American hero, who is much more rare these days, might just be someone who gets up and works all day, someone who makes a living and doesn't incessantly gripe about it, because, as they say in the Midwest to any misfortune, it could be worse. Because they could not have a job, or a home, or their health. And based on where we live compared to the rest of the world, for the most part, we can say it could be worse. Now, following the financial crisis, which Oklahoma has likely only seen the beginnings of, really, there has got to be a great aha out of this age of entitlement. Hopefully, we will wake up and realize the value of savings and the importance of limiting wasteful spending and debt, and that if you're working at all, you're darned lucky. So what are we, in fact, entitled to? A job? Or health care? That bonus we were supposed to get before the market collapsed? These are the things that they're debating in the public arena right now. How much of our tax dollars will go to support people's bonuses? These questions are on the minds of many in the world today. And people are ranked in order and file, and it's interesting. Prisoners often end up at the bottom of that list. And most of you know my spouse is a public defender. I am ever worried about the petri dish of the jail that she goes into regularly in order to visit her clients, especially during flu season, right? I mean, they're people, trust me, but they have germs. I asked her whether the inmates were going to be vaccinated this year. It made sense to me. You've got a large population living under the same roof in close quarters, and she just laughed. She thought that was the funniest thing. She said there were probably folks who believe that they should never be vaccinated. But that's the kind of mentality that I believe gets us into trouble. Because our lives are so interconnected, we forget so easily. I don't believe that an inmate deserves to die of the swine flu, no matter what he's done. But if you can't go there yourself, at least consider the fact that it takes hundreds of people in contact with these inmates every day to keep them incarcerated. So who will be affected? Family members, lawyers, correctional officers, sheriffs, etc. It's that echo of biblical times. Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not, in fact, do for me. Now that story that Randy read this morning was written by racial justice advocate and author Tim Wise. When I heard him deliver that story at TCC, I was blown away. It was in the context of understanding the situation that we're in regarding racism in this country today and white privilege. And yet I think it works as a much broader metaphor. Entitlement asks, why should I take the time to clean a 3-day-old crusty pot of gumbo that I neither made nor benefited from? Why? I mean, I shouldn't have to. I don't deserve to be punished with work for another's mistake. So entitlement is not always about the gifts or rewards that you've received. It's also about not doing more than your fair share of the work. Did I mention the world wasn't fair? I think I did, didn't I? See, it's up to us to bring justice into this world. And when you know the world's not fair, maybe it takes sitting with a parent who's just lost a 2-year-old child. Maybe it takes people and accidents and understanding those kinds of things to know that. But I'm here to testify to you that the world is not fair. And there's still plenty of amazingly beautiful and wonderful things in it that are worth looking at and living for. So why, I wonder, as I think about that story, why even try to salvage the pot in the first place? It's funny, I bet some of you thought like I did when I first heard it, that story. It's like, I might have just thrown that pot of gumbo away, pot and all. Make that pot of gumbo disappear into the trash. Very American of us, isn't it? Tell me you haven't done that, some piece of Tupperware in the refrigerator with things growing all in it. I know you've done that. Come on, I've done that. You've done that. But it's like, let somebody else deal with it, right? Add it to the dump. Give away the problem. Now, in Wise's metaphor, this is not an option. So what makes someone willing to clean up the mess that they didn't even create? What makes someone take ownership of the problems of someone else, to work more than their fair share? What makes someone aware of the difficulties of another human being or a people? What gets them interested enough to get involved and to take action?